What is an extra rule your family added to a popular board or card game? By Ask Reddit.
In Clue, once the killer has been discovered, and it's one of the pieces in play, the game becomes a chase. The remaining player turns are rolls to get out of the mansion through the doors in the hall. The killer tries to catch the remaining pieces and kill them. Secret passages only work if you roll even numbers in that room. The killer rolls twice per turn and cannot use secret passages. Edit: if the killer wasn't one of the played pieces, then the game is over. They couldn't defend themselves and surrendered after being discovered. The killer kills other players by landing on the same space as them between rooms, or by rolling a higher number than them in the same room. If there are 2 players in a room with the killer, killer must announce who they're going after. After one attack, killer's turn is over. Players must escape by leaving the hall through the doors. Entering the hall is one move. Leaving the hall is another. You should try to have at least one more move upon entering the hall to get out safely. If rolling a 3 would get you into the hall, a 4+ would get you out. If no players make it out alive, the killer wins, stacks the bodies in the cellar, locks it, and pretends that none of this has ever happened. Extra fun: at the start of the game, before dealing to players, place an evidence card face down in each room. When you enter the room, you can look at the card and place it back face down. You're sleuthing, after all. If all players have seen the card, you may turn it face up. Edit: it was the stranger, in the thread, with the silver. Thank you.
You would love the game Betrayal at House on the Hill.
My father-in-law keeps note of who has wronged him with a series of annotations beside the score when we play cards.
Ah, I see he plays Total War, Warhammer 2.
That's a grudgin'.
Plot twist: it's not to get revenge in-game, it's to give him the longest list at the annual Festivus airing of the grievances.
In Scrabble, the person who can make the longest word goes first, highest points breaks a tie. This makes the game more fun by ensuring there are lots of places to play your letters.
We used to play with 10 tiles. Makes the words more interesting.
Our house variant is 9 tiles with the bonus structure set at 50 for 7 letters /60 for 8 /75 for 9.
My father custom built a 9-tile Scrabble board where all the bonus squares are spaced out differently. It's amazing.
Just started playing Quirkle and that's how you decide who starts, and it makes so much sense to use it for Scrabble too.
Dear Lord, Quirkle gets vicious in our house.
In Monopoly we have a rule that my sister can't be the banker, otherwise it's like watching Ocean's 11.
My sister growing up seemed to win every time she was banker. We had one of the electronic banks die Monopoly too, so it was easier to cheat. She can't shake the name Crooked Banker for any game we play, including games that have no bank aspect to them. If a roll in Parcheesi is suspect, it's because she's the Crooked Banker. I don't even think she's ever cheated on purpose, it's just really fun to make fun of her.
My brother is the crooked banker of the family. He nicks $100 here, $100 there, extra $20 in the change, that kind of subtle POO. Meanwhile, I'd probably be best described as the heister of the family, my defining moment being the time I managed to nick about $3,000 from the bank when no one was looking. Right under my cousin's nose.
My older cousin kept his savings under the board. Naive as I was, I listened to him when he was explaining what a great idea it was. He was stealing my savings for years when he would collect his, and I was none the wiser. God, I was dumb, but lesson slowly learned.
As a rule, I embezzle when I'm the banker, SHHHH.
My uncle told me stories about how whenever he played Monopoly at a friend's house he would always bring a few $500 bills from his own set and use them. I really like running Monopoly with 2 D20s instead of the default 6s, makes it a lot more chaotic.
This is a great idea. I've got to imagine that it would shake up the meta of Monopoly. Like the orange and red spaces would no longer be the best sets of properties to buy.
I'd recommend 2d8, 1d6 plus 1d8, or even 3d4 instead. 2d20 is way too big a spread to think about hotspots on the board.
2d20 There are 40 squares on the Monopoly board, so 2d20 means you can reach any square on the board from your current position. My issue with it is you'd have to tone down the pass-go, collect 200. Average of 2d6 equals 7, average of 2d20 equals 21. So you should collect 60 or 75 bucks when passing go to average it out. The goal would be to largely remove hotspots on the board. You'd still have slightly higher variance around 21 positions from jail, so yellow and amp, green should become #1 and #2 sets to try to get. Normally you have a 1/6 chance of getting an extra turn, roll a double, and a 1, 2, 1/6 of going to jail on your turn, 3 doubles in a row. To keep roughly those odds with D20, you can make it so that rolls within one of each other count as a double.
I just call it $50 for passing go. It's easier, and a quarter of $200 is not much different from 1/3 like you were aiming for.
Oh my god, that's such a good idea. Literally anything goes in Monopoly. Whatever business deals you make in Monopoly are valid, for example paying some insurance each round so that if you land on their rent properties you are immune.
When I was a kid, the small group of friends I had all played crazy, days-long games of Monopoly through summer and especially winter breaks. As far as anything goes, we took it even away from the game. POO like, sell me St. Charles Place for $2,500, and you don't have to ever pay for landing on it, and also I'll wash the dishes and take out the trash for you tonight. Or, give me immunity on your yellow Monopoly and I won't attack your army with any land units in our next StarCraft game. Buildings only. Or even, we each have 2 railroads, let's form a cartel. Give me your 2, and we'll split all rail income 50/50ths. To keep me honest, I'll give you control of my purple Monopoly. You'll hold those deeds but I still get 100% of the profits. If I ever don't share the rail profits, you keep the purples. If you ever don't give me the purple profits, I keep your 2 rails. This bargaining extended to times we were totally away from the game too. POO like, oh there's only 1 pizza bagel left. I'll give you $500 of Monopoly cash for it.
We did all of this as well, but we also added bailout, where basically you could borrow unlimited funds from the bank as long as you agreed to a payback and interest schedule. We were too young to realize, at first anyway, that this made the game never ending.
The true game of life.
This sounds like you might have taught yourselves about what happened in 2008 inadvertently.
Wait, the rail cartel is actually genius.
We had a game spiral so deeply into cross-player alliances and deals that every move took about 5 minutes to work out who owed what to whom, and half the time it all cancelled out. We had 7-year-olds writing 4-party contracts across multiple amortization periods. We opted to skip that rule moving forward.
It's all fun and games until you have to hire an attorney every time you land on a property with hotels.
I'd like to file for Chapter 11 MR Banker.
The trick is to restructure your assets under several shell corporations before filing for bankruptcy, so you get the benefits of absolving your debts without actually liquidating your assets.
We would do deals where if you traded properties me to help me complete a set you were immune for the first X number of times you landed on them. The insurance idea is fantastic though onk.
My grandmother was deaf/mute, so when we played instead of saying we knocked on the table quickly twice.
When my mother-in-law was suffering from dementia we would play with her and just let her play any card she wanted to play. She was at a point where she couldn't follow the rules of the game, but she did understand that she should put down a card when it was her turn. So we just let her play whatever she wanted. It introduced a fun, chaotic element to the game and she got to enjoy participating and spending time with us.
That is wonderful, how wholesome. I was a nurse's aide who worked with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, and they were some of the most interesting and fun people I ever met. It's a bittersweet feeling because they are in their own world, unfettered in a way.
My favorite grandma had dementia, and while it broke my heart to watch her disappear, she was the sweetest, goofiest, most mischievous little girl by the end, and I wouldn't trade those memories for the world. Her nursing home had a stuffed animal petting zoo one day, and my formerly buttoned-up granny hoisted her dress up quite high, made herself a big carrying pouch out of the skirt, and promptly stole each and every one of those animals. And then hid them in her roommate's dresser so she wouldn't get busted for it. This from a woman who spent a lifetime folding laundry at the dining room table because the carpet wasn't clean enough.
Uno was the one game 3/4 of the clients I worked with at a group home could and would play. The other client had a wicked rage and zero attention span to play turn-taking games, including the client who struggled to play other games. She received some basic instruction each turn to remind her she could only put down cards of the same number and color, but she could play pretty well. She also could only say certain words, so for her saying Uno was holding up the U sign language letter and saying oh wow. It was really nice to play with her since she didn't play any other games and usually just watched movies. It was also a really helpful way to help her form a more positive relationship with a housemate she would pinch and beat up.
There is a game called Chess, which is basically Uno with a regular deck of playing cards that we would play before we ever had an actual Uno deck, and our rule in that has always been to knock on the table when you have one card left.
Taboo. You can play 3-player, cutthroat, taboo. The rules don't really change but the scoring does. There's a ref, watching for taboo words, guesser, can't see the card, and amp, talker, can see the card. The guesser and talker will get 1 point each for each successful guessed word. Taboo words are scored 1 point to the ref. At the end of the round, roles rotate like normal, clockwise. After everyone has 2 turns talking, rotate the other way, counterclockwise. This lets everyone get a turn guessing and talking with each person. I prefer this way because you don't get stuck on a winning, or losing team. Everyone plays with everyone. And there's never a 4th person out.
That's a good one. Don't know if I'll bring taboo back into the household though. Me and the wife got into one of our biggest fights over taboo. It was back when we were dating, and we don't remember what really caused it. We just know it was taboo and have agreed we will never play it again.
If only there was a word for that kind of forbidden activity.
Late to the party here, but in Monopoly we allow the utilities to collect 5% of any player-to-player transaction over $200. It helps keep the utilities relevant and desirable.
You've got me thinking, but shouldn't utilities scale with the number of properties owned? Or maybe per building built? Seriously, those utilities in all those buildings has got to start adding up.
I like this idea. Scaling up, like as a percentage of the rent of each developed property. 5% of a hotel on Boardwalk is still a lot.
That's very interesting. I have often noticed the utilities feeling like a drag. So this could be fun.
I don't think they're necessarily a drag. They're cheap to purchase, and if you get the pair, they repay themselves pretty quickly. They offer a safe haven in some pretty tricky parts of the board, and there's chance/community chest cards that direct players to those spaces. Not terrible, but certainly not going to win you the game. If you're going to get 5% of any transaction over $200, they need to go up in price.
We had a variation on Risk where everyone write down their moves and attacks, and all the moves and attacks were carried out simultaneously. First the troops were relocated, only able to move in country. Then attacks rolled. Once again, you could only attack a neighboring country, and if you won, you could occupy it. But you could not keep pressing the attack until the next turn. If 2 or more countries were attacking each other, they all rolled the max number of dice. Ties were then rerolled. Edit: apparently we copied a game called Diplomacy without knowing. I will check it out. Thanks for the comments who brought this to my attention.
https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/risk_2risk2 did it. It was decent fun. Then I learned of Axis and Allies, spent a lot of time in that instead.
That game is called Diplomacy and it's amazing.
This mechanic is a core part of the Game of Thrones board game. Your moves are placed onto the board face down, you have tokens representing different options, and are all revealed after everyone has placed.
That honestly sounds great. I will talk to my siblings, and we might try it out today.
Check out the game Diplomacy. That is literally how the game is played.
In every coup game, pandemic, castle panic, whatever, there is usually someone who tries to tell everyone what to do. I can accidentally be this person. So, I implemented the right-hand man rule. If the person whose turn it is want advice, if they can only get it from the person on their right. Nobody else can say anything. Makes things way more enjoyable.
Rule for my kids with all board games. Winner cleans up, loser or lowest score picks next game. Tantrums / rage quitting gets you banned from the next game session altogether. Thank you for the award, kind Redditor.
One rule used for many board games: if someone takes too long with his /her move, anyone can fetch the 3 minutes hourglass from the shelf and set it on the table. Once the time runs out, the move is over, regardless of. Another rule for Scrabble: any word is valid if you can find it in any book in our library within 3 minutes.
I hope you have some Lewis Carroll in your library, and a maverick who takes advantage of it.
Here I was all excited at the added J word bujang, and it turns out it's already a valid word. As is Jabberwocky. I'll be damned. Trouble is a fun little game. Unfortunately, with a wife and son, we only have 3 players. 4 players makes it even more fun, so we have a 4th player we call Bob. Bob gets the last turn in the cycle. Someone rolls for Bob, and then the 3 of us agree on what Bob's best move is. It's especially fun when you have to agree that Bob's best move is to take out one of your own pieces. Edit, thanks for all the upvotes and awards and stuff, but I wanted to sort of comment on the meta of what I see in my responses. The first comment I had that really took off and got a huge number of upvotes was 7 years ago, and it broke the 3,000 upvote mark. That felt like a huge thing. This comment isn't the first to surpass it, but the scale really reflects the growth of Reddit as a community far more than it does any insightfulness on my part. You go Reddit. Secondly, I am amused by how many people learned to play Cards Against Humanity from a friend, complete with a totally approved alternate rule, but have not actually read the rules. That's okay. Neither have I.
I'm curious, does Bob ever win?
Of course.
Good for Bob.
And Bob's your uncle.
That's genuinely hilarious.
I also have a Bob. He joins us sometimes for group games. He is a ghost. When playing games like Cards Against Humanity or What Do You Meme, sometimes having another person contribute a card is fun. Our Bob just plays whatever card is at the top of the deck. Last time we played What Do You Meme, Bob won.
We did that too. We swore we had a ghost because their card in Cards Against Humanity was often the best.
If it's Cards Against Humanity, the designers beat you to it. Rando cardristion.
Effing Bob.
Yeah. We say that a lot.